I'm glad you're with us. Appreciate you taking some time here. And let's just kind of get into some things. How are things here for you and the football team? And as we go through this coronavirus, we're all working remotely, it seems like. But how are things? Give us a State of the Union update, if you will.
Yeah, it's very difficult to accurately or to feel like you're giving an accurate depiction of where they are because you really don't know. I've been on 2 calls this week with our players, virtual world. Everything sounds like we're doing the right things and are taking care of ourselves, but certainly there's coaches like to control, and so when you can't see your players and you can't put your hands around them or just at least know exactly what's going on with their workouts, their nutrition, their academics, everything is uncomfortable is the word I use. I do think our players are in a good mindset. They're ready to come back, which is good. We're ready to have them back, which is good. But I'm just not sure that there's any way I can accurately quantify exactly where things stand with each team member right now because it's so hard to judge that when you're not around them. Our position coaches feel pretty good. They're on the phone. They get 4 hours now a week with them in the virtual world to install and talk about life and academics. And we as any time a team of this large number, you're going to have a few that are issues, and we know exactly who they are, so that's good. And but I've been pleased with how we've handled it thus far, as uncomfortable as it is.
You mentioned some of this virtual technology we've done, like we're doing right now. And it's kind of as close as you can get to the players. How have those gone? How much do you spend time on those? And are you talking stuff outside of football, like life and how things are at home with all these players?
Yeah, so we have a staff meeting via virtual world on Tuesday mornings and Friday mornings for sure, and then any impromptu that I call. But and so after we kind of here's the way my mind works, Alan, is my mind. I'm big on just only controlling what I can control and what I feel like I can. The value that I can add right now as a leader in this program is I just segment things into weeks. I have no idea what June's going to look like, what July's going to look like, what August is going to look like, even what May's going to look like. I just know that I know what I want this week to look like. And so on that Tuesday morning call, we're very strategic about recruiting and what our plan is for that, and what our plan is for us developing ourselves to make us better as we come back together. And then the majority of that call is talking about the individual players and their plan of attack for the 4 hours they're allotted that starts on Tuesday afternoon for us with our coaches in meeting with their position groups. And so that is where the barometer is taken and fed back to me on where everything's at. And then I try to jump on every week with the offense and then the next week with the defense, and to try to keep make sure they're hearing from me also. And so I think we're making the most of it. I mean, we're actually installing. It's part of it's install. Big part of it's academics. Then Dom jumps on, and talks to them about strength, and Danielle is available to talk about nutrition. So it's a combination of those 4 hours a week of all those things.
As you look at what Dom Stadinsky is doing with the strength program, we had him on a couple of weeks ago about the voluntary workouts these student athletes are going through and how technology is keeping him connected with them. Touch on kind of what he's doing and what he can do with the student athletes digitally, and how he's continuing to keep them in shape, even though he can't be with them.
Well, that's a concern of his for sure, because and we can send out as many plans as we're allowed to do so, and we have. But unfortunately, a lot of kids are in places where gyms have shut down, and they don't have access to trained the way Dom would like to train them, and so they've got to make the most of that, and that's a challenge, and that's difficult, and so we're looking forward to the day that we can get them back on campus, because he had done a remarkable job. I don't know if you got to get out to any of the 5 practices we had, but man, we had some really nice weight gains on some kids, and that's not just him, that's Danielle with nutrition also, and now you're concerned that you're going to lose some of those gains that you had. So, he cannot go on. Our first question was, can he take them by position group and actually take them through a workout on the virtual world?
Yeah.
And that is not permissible currently. So we can't do that, but he's on weekly with them, trying to get feedback from the workouts he has sent them and give them alternatives. When a kid says, Coach, I have no weights, I have nowhere to go, what's some other alternatives?
I ask this next question about best case scenario, and when teams are allowed to, and I guess when the nation does open back up for business, if you will, what do you think the best case scenario is with college football teams? Meaning, okay, when we are able to get back as a team, this is what I want to see. And how do you gauge that from conditioning to strength training to implementing game plan? And
yeah,
have you thought about that moving forward? I guess
I have. We've started this week coming up with contingency A, contingency B, contingency C, all of those things. If we got them back in June, say that's contingency A, I would love to see them give us at least a week, if not 7 days of OTAs to don't have to have pads on, but kind of walk through our stuff. Whether or not that'll happen, I don't know. But here's what I do know. Whatever the plan is, I just don't see how in the world we could begin preparing for a game without them having at least 5 to 6 weeks in conditioning with our strength staff. I think you're asking for a ton of injuries should we push it quicker than that. And so that's kind of in my mind. Whenever they say, here's when fall camp will begin, I sure hope they give us at least 5 to 6 weeks prior to that to train properly.
We're with head coach Hugh Freeze of Liberty Football. My name is Alan York. This is our first Wednesday with the Flames. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And if you'd like to ask a question on the video chat, you can. We will see those Q&As as we move on here, Coach. And we do have some questions that have been populated through our email address, lfsn@liberty.edu. And you touched a little bit on one of the questions about what it's going to be like when you're able to get back. And do have a couple of questions. Mike emails us in from Roanoke and wants to know about what part of your team, Coach, in 2020 do you expect to be most improved?
I wish I would have had spring ball before I have to answer that, but probably linebacker play would be the one that I expect us to improve on, maybe because I think that group had the farthest to come, that I think we should. And obviously we've moved Scott Simons to coach there, our coordinator. I think he takes a lot of pride in making sure his position plays very well. And I would expect that group to be more consistent than we were last year.
You mentioned Scott moving to linebackers, Corey Batoon, who you have hired from Hawaii. We don't know much about Corey. He's going to be coaching the safeties. What can you tell us about his relationship? I know he's coached with you in the past, and why he's a good fit for your staff here in 2020.
Number one, he's the type of human being you want here on your staff at Liberty, and his desire to impact people that he's around is as good as any I've ever coached with. And he's the most brilliant coach I've ever coached with. He sees things quicker and more clearly than most of us. And I used to use him all the time, even in my offensive game plan when I was a coordinator, and even as a head coach. I would be a little unclear on exactly how they're playing something, and I'd call Corey down to my office, and I mean, it's one play or two plays, and he's all right. Here's what they're doing. He's just that type of mind, and he's a tremendous evaluator, and I think that's what you need at this level.
Coach, we got some more questions being populated by the fans tuning in. We have a number of fans watching live right now. This will also be archived back on a number of our social media channels. And one question comes in, and folks want to know how your health is and how's the golf game right now.
Yeah. So health is, I think I'll probably deal with a little stiffness in my back forever with some arthritic things that have left over from surgery and the infection I had and stuff. But as far as my health, I couldn't be more blessed. Feel good. Walking 18 holes most every day, most every afternoon that I can right now. And my golf game, the handicaps come way down. So it's a little too low, actually. I like it to be a little higher than what it is. So we've had some great matches and a lot of fun. And I tell you, I'm thankful that, I play with the same group of guys to respect the social distancing. And we have we are walking now a lot. So, but if we did have carts, our club, you're in your cart by yourself. It's been disinfected. I take my disinfectant wipes. We don't touch the flag stick. And I think getting out in the sun's good for you. I really do. And, I think I would be crazy if I had to sit in the house all day long without any exercise or something to do to compete at. And so most of my days, I get up in the morning, I go out on the back porch if the weather is not terribly bad, and I spend time doing my reading, devotional, prayer. Then I go in the office and do stuff like this with either media or our players or our staff. Watch a little tape like I did today with Sam. I did a Zoom conference this morning with the high school staff, and then I usually go try to walk 18 holes of golf and then have family time at night. And we eat together now and talk together, play cards, watch shows, and FaceTime recruits. So that's every day is about the same for me. And I kind of like that part of it, but I've missed the heck out of our players.
Coach, you've talked about your family, your three daughters, your wife Jill, and how important they are to you in this process. How have they adjusted to Dad being at home a little bit more than maybe during the normal time of the year?
It's been awesome for us, and I say that out, and I want to be careful because I at all don't want to. There's this pandemic that our nation is going through. There are so many people that are hurting.
Yeah.
And so I want to be careful not to act like I'm not sensitive to that. I'm very sensitive to that, and I want to help any way I can to those that I can help. But for us, there's been some really good quality bonding family time. And I think the question for me is, my daughters have adjusted really well to it. I think we get along well. We've had some great talks about life. I think the biggest challenge for me now, Alan, is how do I take what I've learned in this era where God has totally kind of stripped away maybe everything that our society says is important: sports, the market. I would add even church in it. Church is great, obviously, but it shouldn't replace the relationship you have with God and your family. And so I think the big challenge for me, and I love your take on it too, is, all right, so when the grind begins again, how do I take what I've learned during this time and not go backwards? So that's my question that I'm dealing with right now, because I've really enjoyed the quality of the moments that me, Jill, and the girls have had.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. I know with the job I have at Liberty and traveling a lot with the teams that we cover, the time at home is so precious, and we've had a lot of it the last month and a half, and we watch news stories all the time about families that are spending more time together and how they adjust to that. I know my family wants me around as much as I can be, and it's been great connecting with our 3 daughters as well. So thank you for presenting that on me. And at the same time, we're trying to market as much as we can about Liberty digitally, and I think we're doing a really good job of doing that through social media platforms. And one question I've got, Coach, and we're getting more questions coming in for the fans tuning in, is about recruiting. And that's the lifeblood of programs across the country. How have you and the staff adjusted to that? And what are some of the things creatively you're trying to do to get in homes digitally and virtually like we're doing right now?
Yeah, it's recruiting really hadn't slowed down as far as the communication. It's enhanced, if anything, because we have time. And man, I mean, our staff is on FaceTime calls with recruits daily. I have my list, and so you're constantly communicating with them. They're into this. Some of our staff's into the gaming world now, where you can play games online with them. So there's the recruiting has not changed one bit, other than the big aspect and component of it that we're going to miss is the spring evaluation period. Because we can't go on campuses and watch them in spring ball, watch them compete, watch them lead, watch them as teammates. So that's a big part of the evaluation that won't be there. But as far as the communication, it's still ongoing and probably has been enhanced.
What are some of those unique things you've seen that you have implemented with the recruiting? I know we are part of a weekly football social media confab with your video folks, with SJ, Tui, and we have a fun time talking about how we can create content and things for recruits and for fans digitally. So when you have those conversations with recruits, what are they asking about? What are they wanting to see when it comes to Liberty football?
Yeah, I think thanks to you guys and to people like SJ Tui that are far advanced than I am, and Ethan, and coming up with plans. But it's really, you're trying to present to them the same junior days and the same things you would do should they be on campus in the virtual world. So thankfully we have people on our campus like you guys that can really help with that and say, here this week, here's our academic presentation, here's our facilities presentation, here's the life at Lynchburg and in Liberty Way. And so all of those things, I think, is what universities are trying to do now, is take them through an actual visit, so to speak, in the virtual world.
Got another question coming in, Coach, from some of the fans watching right now. Kevin in Omaha has a question about recruiting players who have entered the transfer portal from Power 5 conferences. And you don't have to pigeonhole it just specifically to that, but I guess recruiting transfers and JUCO guys, philosophy on that. Thank you for the question, Kevin. Yeah,
that's changed our game. And you have to be open to taking kids out of the transfer portal to immediately meet needs, for one thing. And then the earlier ones obviously are projected. But the grad transfer has changed the game. I mean, I think there was one school in the past 2 years that's taken like 32 grad transfers, and it immediately turned their program from mediocre to winning 10 and 11 games. And so I think it's am I crazy about all the transferring? Here's my philosophy: is if a kid has fulfilled his obligation and got his degree from a university, he has earned the right to decide if he wants to go elsewhere to finish his playing days. I believe in that. And I think that's the way it should be. And then I think the second layer to that is if you and the young man have a conversation about it and are on the same page of agreeing it may be best for him to move on or in his best interest to move on, then I think that's okay too. But I'm just afraid there's a lot of, well, I didn't get my playing time as a freshman and I want to leave. I'm not in favor of that at all if it's based on that limited experience. So, but we're very open to it. We have saved 2 scholarships with the transfer portal in mind, and we're constantly monitoring it to see if those 2 it's two specific positions we're looking for, one O-line, one linebacker. And so we're constantly, and as soon as we see one, we evaluate him, get the evaluation done, and then we're in contact with him if we like him. So we're active, as is everyone.
Welcome to our first Wednesday with the Flames. Head coach Hugh Freeze from the football program is our inaugural guest here. And Coach, I went back and watched your February press conference talking about the recruiting class that you wrapped up that started literally when we were in Orlando for the Cure Bowl. And you talked about marketing this university, this football program, and the type of kids you want in this program that are going to scratch and claw for everything. And then you also talked about the people, and that's what you really enjoy about this university. Dive into what makes this place so unique for those prospective student athletes that might be watching this now or maybe down the road.
Yeah, I think this place, so let's just take people in general. I think it's very rare that you get a group of people that consider themselves on the same team, that are all pointed in the same direction, that all have the same mindset, the same like-mindedness. Not that you're the same, but the core of what runs through you is the same, and so therefore you're like-minded. Now, we may have a different opinion on how you get from point A to point B, but we don't disagree on, we all agree that we want to get to point B, if that makes sense. And so I think Liberty, as much as any university I've ever been a part of, the core that runs through is so like-minded for the most part. Do I think you'll ever get 100% on that? No, but I think the thread that we're made of here and the foundation that we have, almost everyone agrees on that, and we're like-minded with that. And again, we may see things a little different on how we're going to get to that point B, but point B, to all of us, or most of us, we all agree on. We're all in on that, and so I think it makes it a real unique place, because I don't think many teams, many places, have a large percentage of people that are like that we say, every one of us, we agree. We all want to get to that point B, and I think it makes this place special.
Got some more questions coming in, Coach, regarding the quarterback position and offensively in general. One fan writes in, considering the loss of Stephen Calvert and Antonio Gandy-Golden, are there any new wrinkles or changes offensively you're looking to make here this fall?
Boy, I haven't changed offensively in, 13 years, so probably not going to. It's been successful. There's no way that you can just say you're automatically going to replace the numbers that Buckshot and AGG piled up. So will we look a little different? Probably, but it's stuff that I've done before. If you look where I have a dual threat guy, or using more receivers than that get probably targeted more equally. So I think C.J. Yarbrough and Demario Douglas are going to be phenomenal players too, that are young receivers to help shoulder the burden of the loss of AGG. And quarterback is still up in the air. Who knows what we're going to be like there? We didn't get enough practices for me to say, but we won't change anything about us offensively. It may look a little different in the run game some, but it's still the same stuff.
I think we're all excited next week for the NFL draft and where Antonio Gandy-Golden will end up. And have you had any conversations with him in the last couple of weeks? And for those fans tuning in, Coach, you've been involved with the draft process in your previous stops. What makes this time so exciting for those student athletes that are just so close to getting that dream fulfilled?
It's a huge day for them. I mean, they've dreamed of this moment, and there's very few people ever get to experience it. I mean, less than 2% of college football players get to experience being drafted. And so it's a special day for sure. But I'm always quick to remind, and I have talked to AGG recently, and I just remind him every single time, listen, this is draft day. It is not draft career. It doesn't matter. Don't get caught up in who you're going to, when you're going, or it doesn't matter. Man, be grateful that you're getting an opportunity, and then once you get it, then go make make draft career. That day will be forgotten. It won't matter whether you got drafted in the first round or the seventh round, or if you were a free agent. What's going to matter is what you do after that opportunity presents itself, and that's what I've always told our guys, and that's what I've told him, and had a lot of GMs reaching out to me about him, so I feel good, feel confident that he's going to get his opportunity.
When you look back at how last year ended with the bowl trip and beating Georgia Southern and the opportunity you had to meet with the returners coming back for that first time, take us into that moment. What have the marching orders been for the returners coming back? And you can't rest on what happened a year ago or the last play. And you're always talking about play the next play. What were some of those things you talked about this 2020 team coming back?
Yeah, it was very clear, the things you just mentioned. But number one, the DNA of the last year team is over. It never will be. It never will happen again. It's gone. And you can't look around for AGG to lead, or Duff, or Buckshot, or Jesse, or it's gone. Solomon, we love them. We always will. They'll always be Flames. They're always welcome back here, but they're not going to help you next year. They're done. And so now it's time for a new leadership. It's time for a new leadership council. It's time for all of us to evaluate where we are with that. And just because somehow, some way we found a way to go to a bowl game in our first full season and win it, that is good for nothing in next year's season. That will not help you one bit in winning a football game next year. It will be the work that you put in between now and then. And so that was the message.
As we wrap things up here, Coach, I want to remind fans, season tickets available right now. Priority deadline is June 1st. You can call the ticket office 434-582-7328. Again, that number 434-582-7328. Or go to libertyflames.com/tickets. Season opener September 5th at Virginia Tech. Home opener a week later against North Carolina A&T. When you look at this schedule, I know fans are hoping there's going to be a season. I'm confident there will be at some point. When you look at this schedule and how it shapes up, it's kind of alternating home and away. How do you like the makeup of this 2020 schedule?
I think it's a difficult schedule, but that excites me. That I really don't even. You know more about the schedule than I do. I know we're supposed to open with Virginia Tech at their place, and that's really all I know. And the glimpse I look at it, and I thought, man, this is a challenging schedule. There's some good football teams on there, so it'll be a good test for us and see where we are in year two. We're thankful to all the fans that come out and buy tickets. We couldn't do it without you. We're thankful for that. I know it's a hard time right now. Hopefully we're gonna come through this quicker than anyone thinks, and get back to some normalcy, and within that normalcy carry with it the lessons we've learned during this time that I think we've all would say that there's things we've learned. So I hope we can do that, but we certainly just want to, while I'm on here, say thank you to our fans. We got great home atmosphere, and we need to make it even more intense.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time here today. 30 minutes has come and gone. It goes by quick, but a lot of good insight from you and your football program. Look forward to September. And again, you stay safe and your team as well.
Let's do it, and we'll do this again if we stay in quarantine.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, Alan.